Okay, so first things first, let's talk about Jessica. Yeah, you surely did not expect me to start off with her, especially since in episode 5 we surely did not have much going on for Jessica. We're gonna start off with Jessica and the rest of the cousins, but especially Jessica. Now, before when I was talking about the whole thing with the adults and Ballard planning this whole thing for Nazi to get caught, to be on the spotlight, to confess her sins, stuff like that. I was talking about how Jessica and cousins would fake their death, and Ballard did bring up that truth of his interpretation of what happened in the court, like at the end of episode 5 about that, which would mean that they were still alive after the events of the morning on October 5th, that they faked their death in my eyes. And in similar fashion to what I was talking about before, about how Nazi would have no motive to murder Jessica, despite everything that has been said, in my eyes. Like, she would have no motive to murder Jessica, as far as I was aware. So, in similar fashion to Jessica, Jessica would have no motive to fake her death so that her mother would get caught. Like, or at the very least, she wouldn't really agree with this kind of plan that Beller and the adults created in order to put the Nazi on the spotlight. I feel like she wouldn't really go with that kind of plan. But it kind of makes me think, what if Jessica came out of all this with the idea that she would prank Erika? Maybe Rosa told them to do all this, to have the cousins pretend to be dead, to fool Erika into thinking that they died. That Erika would investigate a crime scene, like getting all excited and such. And when it is revealed that Jessica faked her death, Erika would get disappointed by that prank. Erika would think that she was getting an actual mystery there, but nah, they faked their death. They were doing it as a prank. Especially since, well, Jessica does not like Erika, that's for sure. Maria, she would totally do it because she likes pranks. As it was discussed before about doing pranks with Beatrice while she was visiting Okanjima years prior. George, I mean, he's still young. He'll probably go along, I guess. Like, Erika would be the first and only one to discover the bodies inside the room without any of the other adults knowing that there was a prank going on in the first place. That they would want only Erika to be inside, and then the cousins would be all, surprise! And then Erika would be, you fucking idiots! And then that would be the end of it. So, yeah, I guess that would be an idea for that. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. Like, more specifically about Shannon and Kanon, in the sense that there wasn't much stuff going on for them in episode 5. Like, for me to notice anything new that can help me in understanding them or build up on what I have thought about them during season 4 investigation. And if there was, I might have missed them, and I will catch it in the future. However, given that episode 5 was about Nazi, like in similar fashion to how episode 1 was at times, centered around her, and that episode was when we looked at the interaction between Nazi and Kinzo for the first time, and episode 5 expanded on that. Like, it expanded on that to the moon and beyond, basically, what we had in episode 5. I think that maybe we may witness the birth of a pattern, maybe. So, hear me out. Nazi was the centered character of episode 1 among the adults, while most of the other adults died, like leaving Nazi to lead the rest. In episode 2, it was about Maria and Rosa, and also Shannon and Kanon. In episode 3, it was about Eva, and in episode 5, it was about Angie, and Maria again. Like, that would be the TLDR of the spotlighted characters, if I'm to think about it in the simplest form. What if, from episode 5 to episode 8, we're gonna go through that similar pattern again? Episode 5 was about Nazi, like, similar fashion to episode 1. Episode 7 can very well be about Eva again, like similar to episode 3. And episode 8 can be about Angie and Maria again. Like, with that being said, if such a pattern were to happen, then we can say that episode 6 will be about Shannon and Kanon again, similarly to episode 2, which means that I may be able to work on understanding them a bit more if episode 6 is gonna be about those two again. So, yeah. In case you guys were curious about what my expectations were gonna be for episode 6, it will be that we will get to see more of Shannon and Kanon, like, once again. So, there's that. And I guess by that logic, we're also gonna see more of Rosa and Maria and how they interact. Another thing that I want to bring up here is what Battler did by the end of his final fight in episode 5. He said it himself at the end. Neither Erika's theory, nor even his theory, are the single truth. As long as there's no definitive answer, the witch illusion still exists. Which, from what I gather here, it means that Battler is trying to keep the illusion of the witch still standing, to keep the true culprit's identity hidden, or Beatrice's identity, like both of those identities, to keep them secret. Reason why he decided to put his theory that he is the culprit of this case, to make it so Erika's theory is no longer the one and only solution. He didn't do that because him being the culprit is the definitive answer. I mean, he did it to keep the illusion intact. Because remember, Virgilia said during episode 5 at some point that Battler is not the culprit, that he has not killed anyone. And that certainly applies to all games. And, you know, if we were to go with what Battler explained in the court, we never reached that part where we figured out when and how the cousins and the rest of the humans actually died. Maybe we're going back to my good old theories of how Beatrice's identity can either be Shannon or Kanon, or both. I also did bring up the idea that Shannon and Kanon are the one and the same, but I will have to see about that one. Now, it would mean that for the mystery section of this, the humans in episode 5 must have died by something we did not see. Because, as I said before, we focused so much on Nazi being the culprit, like thanks to Erika, we didn't really focus on other possibilities. I'm basing this on what I've talked about prior to episode 5, not specifically like any evidence in episode 5 itself. Like, I'm going with the idea of the bomb that destroys the mansion. Like I theorized about that at the end of episode 4. Like a huge bomb that may have been set by Shannon or Kanon, which would make either of them the culprit in this case. Cause, like, what is it that we know for certain? We know for certain that the red truths that stated that humans died tell us that the humans were dead when the red truth was stated. So that means that at the end of October 5th, when the clock hits 0000 or 24, if you were to go with that idea, maybe every human was alive until the 5th of October, where everyone died because of the bomb. Hence the red truth that states that those people are dead, like in that split second. When the clock hit 0000, when the court started, then that was when you can say that, well, those people are dead. If we were to say 2359, then maybe you cannot say that the humans were dead, like Jessica, all those named were dead. In similar fashion to what Ranoe was talking about. Like, maybe Baby Human was alive until the end of October 5th. Cause I looked at the list of rare truths for this episode, like I double checked, and before the trial, like taking place at 0000 at the end of October 5th, before that, there was no red truth that stated a person was dead at the time the red truth was stated. Only during the trial at 0000 there were red truths that stated this person was dead, or that person was dead, or something like that. So we can go with the idea that everyone who we thought was dead were hiding somewhere, and at the end of the October, when the clock hit 00, everything went kaboom, and everyone died. So there is that idea. Granted, like while I was talking about the idea of a bomb destroying everyone, and I had evidence for all of that stuff by the end of episode 4, and I'm still standing with that idea of a huge bomb. I still think that is happening. However, I'm not gonna lie that in this case, in episode 5, that feels like a cop-out answer. Like, the entire thing can be explained with a bomb! There you go. But that's because of what we have seen thus far, with the explanations of what happened at the beginning of October 5th, like between 12 a.m. like at night and 6 a.m. in the morning or something like that. We didn't really explore much of what happened after that. Like, if we are to think that the cousins Rosa and Genji pretended to be dead, and even Hideyoshi pretended to be dead, if I'm to go with my idea, then that would mean that they died after Hideyoshi's pretend death right over here. So when that happened, how they died, we saw nothing of that. Of how they actually died, when they died, and all that stuff, so my guess is as best as yours. Anything could have happened, as long as the cousins Rosa, Genji, and Hideyoshi were hidden. Like, once they disappeared, once they exit stage left, anything could have happened to them at that point, in my eyes. Like, what else can I say about them? About their actual fates, if we don't get to see past what actually happened to them, like past their fake death moments and such. What can I even say about them? Well, I guess one idea, like, well, not idea, but one question that we would have to try and answer is, where are they hidden? Where do they go after their moments ended? All we know is that the adults actually took Hideyoshi's quote-unquote body. Like, they took Hideyoshi into the parlor, I think, right? I think I remember the detail that they would go and take Hideyoshi with them. It makes sense that they would take Hideyoshi with them. And you know, it kind of makes me think like remember when I talked about this during one of the last like parts of season 5, when I was talking about their plan of faking Hideyoshi's death, like when Battler would actually confront Natsuhi at the end and say that that's not good, Natsuhi, that's not good, you're supposed to tell the full truth. And then he would reveal that he was the man from 19 years ago, and they would reveal that that was his and the adults' plan to fool Erika. Actually fool Erika as well, but also fool Natsuhi into confessing about her sin or something like that. And then you know what would happen? Hideyoshi would also wake up. Like, remember when they were talking about wrapping him in sheets so that blood would not spill like everywhere and such? They would wrap him, and then once Battler and the adults revealed that, aha, we caught you, Nazi, and then Hideyoshi would wake up like a like a mummy. he would start unwrapping himself. Maybe they can even make a joke and Hideyoshi would wake up like a zombie. Oh, Natsuhi, you're the one who killed me! Like, my guess is, in similar fashion to Hideyoshi, once it is all revealed, the cousins Rosa and Genji would actually enter through the door and Natsuki and Erika would be all, "What? You're not dead?" But where were they actually hidden? My guess is as best as yours. They could have hidden like any. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Erika is a very methodical person. She checks a lot of stuff. Like, how much did Erika check inside the mansion after the events at 6 a.m. in the morning? Like, either way, when you have someone like Erika, the cousins Rosa and Genji, they would definitely have to hide like really, really well, so that they wouldn't be caught by Erika in the middle of the day and such, so there is that. Okay, so in this next section that we're going to be going through here, I've decided to cast my eyes on another random moment or thing from the past episodes or so. And one of the things that I want to talk about is the pin number that we've discovered in episode 3 and that was used by Angie in episode 4 and such. We know that Battler's birthday was like 0715. He stated it himself when the number was discovered. And I think that at a point I was also thinking, well, what if the culprit's birthday was the other 4 digits and such? And I was more than likely questioning if it was Shannon, or recently I guess Kanon in that case as well. I'm questioning that. But you know what, that's not really anything new there, when you think about it. However, if I'm to think about what happened in episode 5 and some stuff that we may have discovered, well, we do know that Natsuki's favorite season is fall, or more specifically autumn, but we're gonna go with autumn here for a second, even though I do have to say something about the word fall in a second over here. So let's think about this. Like 11/29, it is November. It is still fall in that case. Like on the border of fall, of autumn. Like soon enough after that, like 2 or 3 days after that, you're gonna have like a winter in that case. But for this, it is autumn. And it kind of makes me question, why did our mysterious person decide to use Natsuki's favorite season specifically? Because on the surface level, the reason why the mysterious person decided to use that particular little detail that Natsuki knows is because they wanted to show that the mysterious person is closer than Natsuki may have thought. But, you know, the mysterious person could have used like other details to show that. So it kind of makes me question if they used the favorite season for something specific, like for more than just one reason. Not because they wanted to show that they were close, but to maybe psychologically make the Natsuki remember her sin in that case, with the word fall. I mean, when you think about it, like fall for the season can be connected to the baby and the servant, like falling up the cliff. That was like an interesting detail that I have thought of. But I guess this, like in similar fashion to how I questioned like Balder's voice acting at the beginning of episode 5, like whether we're talking about this version of Umineko with the voice acting and the original version that did not have like Balder's voice and such. In similar fashion to this, it kind of makes me question if the original Japanese version, like the Japanese language, wanted to use that kind of wordplay with the word fall, if that's something that still stands in the Japanese version. Like, you know, there's the epitaph, and, you know, when it comes to translating like puzzles that may depend on wordplays in Japanese, that's a very hard thing to translate in English. Like, you would have to try your best. As it stands, up until this point, if I am to go with my own answers and such, it still stands. But it makes me question if the same thing they thought of in in for autumn, for fall. That is, if Ryukishi has thought of the wordplay in English as well when thinking about that, or it doesn't really have any connection because it is meant to be thought of as just something Japanese. In which case, connecting the word fall, like the season fall, to the falling of the servant and the baby, maybe we shouldn't really rely on that too much. I wouldn't say in that case it's really that much of a huge connection that we can make over here, because the entire thing is happening over autumn, like fall. You know, October 4th, 5th, we had Halloween, we have witches. It's like there isn't much to be connected there. So yeah, there is that. And that is what I wanted to talk about there. Now, another thing that I want to address, now thinking about that pin number, it also made me think of a different possibility for episode 3, for what happened with Eva in episode 3. And honestly, I'm not even sure if I talked about this possibility. This feels new, what I am having in mind. Like, I remember when I talked about the possibility of Eva entering the parlor where George and Shannon were, like maybe Shannon was still alive, and it was found out that George loves Shannon, and then Eva was going berserk over the idea of her son marrying like someone of a low status as Shannon. So with her gun in her hand, she was going all berserk, and maybe by accident killed George, and that the breakdown or something like that. And then Eva would cry her eyes out like, "Oh my god, what have I done?" Like, that could be a possibility that I thought of in the past. But you know, with the whole thing with the pin number being put on the parlor door specifically, where George died, it kind of makes me think of a different possibility for that. So, Shannon or Kanon, if one of them is Beatrice, would decide to give Eva the pin number so that she can get her money after their family conference. With no murder whatsoever, Eva solves the epitaph. Beatrice gives her the reward. No murder would happen. It's all peaceful and such. However, Eva decides to murder Rosa, and because of that, Maria as well. It's one can think that Eva murdered Rosa so that Eva would not have to share her money. Maybe we're talking about greed over here, because that's one thing that we have to take into account. The greed of Eva gaining her new power and money and such, finally, after all these years. Greed would come into that, so she would murder Rosa so that no other complications would happen. So Rosa and Maria are dead. Uh-oh. Shannon or Kanon, they see that Eva killed Rosa and Maria and that. So all bets are off. In that case, Shannon or Kanon, they could have murdered, well, Kanon was murdered in, okay, it was said that Kanon's body was found in the chapel, and Shannon's body was found in the parlor. So the reason why I'm thinking of Shannon a little bit more in this particular case, because we talked about Shannon and Kanon in the first episode extensively about the possibilities there, and a little bit of that in episode 2, but I don't think I remember talking about it extensively in episode 3. Like, I mentioned that it was possible, of course, but I didn't go into the details. But for the sake of argument, let's go with Shannon for this. So, when George enters the parlor and he sees Shannon and all that, that could have been when Shannon herself murdered George. And possibly she also murdered Hideyoshi, Rudolph, Kirie, although that could have been Kanon as well, like inside the mansion. They did that, like Shannon specifically did that as a result of Eva's, like, murderous moment when Rosa and Maria died and such. Shannon puts the pin number on the parlor door where George died. But in this case, Shannon is not gonna tell Eva what that number means. Like, Eva and Shannon, they're not gonna go into the details. Like, you know, at first, it probably went like this. Like, Eva would talk to Shannon or Canon about this, about the epitaph. Once Eva solves it, then Shannon or Canon would give Eva the details about how to get her reward, including the pin. But now, Shannon or Canon would only give Eva the pin without Eva knowing what that number actually means or how to use it, since Shannon or Canon, they decide to be all hush-hush to her about what that number can be used on. Now, there is this one thing that I keep mentioning over and over and over, like, what was it exactly? Oh yeah, Beatrice's promise. So, I've been thinking about it, like, quite a few times before. And the end of episode 5, pretty much, like, in my eyes, it pretty much solidifies my my opinion more of how the promise is something very, very important to Beatrice. And Beatrice did promise that the murders would stop if someone solved the epitaph, and yet, what is going on over here? Well, in episode 3, the murders continued, even though the epitaph was solved. So, cause I thought about this, and maybe there was something happened that made Beatrice not fulfill her promise. That it was something that made it impossible for Beatrice to keep her promise, even if the epitaph was solved, both in episode 3 and in episode 5. But in that case, I would have thought that maybe it was something like an external factor that was totally out of their control. But this explanation that I'm giving over here for episode 3, Shannon or Canon, they did have the choice of not murdering if Eva started murdering. In fact, it would actually make more sense if Shannon or Canon decide to murder Eva after Eva killed Rosa and Maria. It would actually make more sense. But no, instead, they're actually making things worse by murdering George, Hideyoshi, Kirie, Rudolph, and such. They would actually make things worse. So, in order to try to keep that promise still intact, they would try and kill Eva, since apparently Eva is on a murder spree in their eyes. So they would kill Eva, and then there will no longer be murders. They would still sort of try to keep that promise intact by not having like any murders like anymore after that. But no, if I'm to go with my theory about what happened, the promise is broken, and it is broken by Beatrice's hands. So I don't know. Like, unless I'm interpreting this wrong when it comes to the promise, or maybe I'm interpreting it wrong when it comes to my theory. I feel like I'm going wrong with my theory if I am to go with the promise idea. So I don't know. It is definitely something. Like, I'm still gonna have to think about it. Alright folks, well, I guess this is gonna be the end of this investigation video. I'm gonna be cutting this video shortly because I did set up like a deadline for this video to arrive at 15th of October and such. I'm gonna be cutting this video shortly. Now granted, in my eyes, I cannot say that I've tackled the most important topics in this video. I feel like I tackled a lot of heavy stuff like prior to this when it comes to episode 5 and, in my opinion, Sakutaro's revival with the gold meaning and such. But I feel like I could have done a lot more in this investigation video, but you know what? It is the way it is. We're gonna be leaving some more extra stuff that I can think of in regards to episodes 1 through 4. As we go through episode 6, we're gonna see about thinking about episodes 1 through 4 a lot more as we start episode 6 and go from there. And I'm also gonna see about telling you my thoughts, like my extensive thoughts and feelings about episode 5. I know that I should have done that for this investigation video, but as I said, I put a deadline for this, so we're gonna leave that stuff for episode 6. However, like TLDR, when it comes to how I thought about episode 5, it was great. It was fantastic. It is, I think that I can consider it my favorite thus far, as of now. And, yeah, like, as time goes on, like, more, like, even more than I thought of before, I feel like Umineko is turning out to be my new favorite VM and such. So, yeah, that tells you something. That it is becoming my new favorite in like a lot of aspects, like both on a surface level when it comes to like cool meaningful characters, like songs, like how dramatic and suspenseful the story can be, but also on a more like I'm having a hard time thinking of the word, like a more meaningful level, like a more advanced level. I guess I can call it like an advanced level in the sense of how the story itself plays out and how you think about the story. Not gonna lie, like admittedly, it is a lot harder of a story to digest and interpret, but once you try and interpret it the way the story itself tries to interpret some stuff, like it is quite something. It is quite something, and I do have to thank Umineko for that. Like all that talk that Battler, Virgilia, and Delanor had, like that was like my like, in my opinion, that was my absolute favorite of episode 5. All that talk about the relationship between the author and the reader that can be done through the Nox commandments and some of the stuff that you may notice, like cliches and well, not cliches, but stuff that you see in murder mysteries, like how like the threshold when the main protagonist knows when knows the clues, therefore it makes the reader more motivated. Like I still want to think about Kenzo some more, about some of his moments that he had before and such. And what else? There's that stuff in general when it comes to episodes 1 through 4. I want to think some more on that. Like it's a work in progress, like until the end of Umineko, and even beyond that, it's always a work in progress. And I feel like one factor that will determine in how Umineko is becoming my new favorite is that even after you finish the story, you're still gonna have like lots of content to think about throughout this, in comparison to other more simple stories where you understand what happened, you understand what the characters had gone through, like what makes the characters click and all that. You understand that, and you end the game slash story, and that is that. You don't have that much replayability when it comes to trying to understand like new things when it comes to simple stories. But with Umineko, especially Umineko, it feels like you're gonna have a lot of work to do, even after finishing Umineko. I mean, that's how I feel at this point. That's how I feel like Umineko is. I mean, look no further than every single end of every single episode. like after each and every single ending of each episode, it always felt like there's a lot of stuff that I still have yet to tackle. Even more so with each consecutive episode, like, yeah, stuff are piling on. So the main mission that I would have for the Umineko is to try and understand everything. And not in the sense that what the author intended with every single character and such. I mean, there's also that. There's gonna be some stuff that I would like to try and understand in terms of what the author wanted out of this, but also stuff that I myself would get out of these moments to interpret them myself and see what I can get out of those. Like there's always going to be those kinds of moments, and yeah, it is nice. It is lovely. It adds to replayability when it comes to this. Like, you know what they say with good books, like each time you reread them, there's always going to be like new stuff that you may learn and such. In comparison, more simple stories where you you feel like you pretty much understand everything, like, and there's no much replayability when it comes to rereading that story, when in comparison to more complex stories where you get to learn some more stuff with the new info that you gathered as you went through the story and such. So yeah, I do like that about Umineko. And there's probably going to be like a lot more that I want to talk about in regards to how I feel about Umineko and episode 5 in general, but as I said, episode 6 all the way. We're going to be starting episode 6 soon enough, ladies and gents. And with that being said, there's also the Witch contest that I announced recently. Today is the 15th, and soon enough it's gonna be 20th, so you only have like 5 more days for you to vote in the polls and the ranking, like in the description that you're gonna see in this video. I'm gonna leave the polls and the rankings in the description, so that you guys can vote for your favorite witches and such. And after the 20th, the votes are no longer gonna be like the new votes. After that will no longer apply. What the votes are gonna be? Well, I guess you guys you shall see. Although I feel like for the polls specifically, you can see the result. It's just that the ranking you are not gonna be able to see it. Only I'm gonna be able to show it to you, like the results, when the time comes. And by that I mean when the Witch contest is gonna arrive by the end of October. So make sure you guys vote. Hopefully you guys are are excited for episode 6 as I go through it. Yeah, there's like 3 more episodes. It's kind of sad when I think about it. I mean, there's still a lot of a lot of stuff. Like 3 episodes, that's still pretty long. That's still pretty long. There's a lot of content there, but still. We are above the halfway point. We have 3 more episodes left. That's like the equivalent of, say, the first 3 episodes, which I don't know how long that lasted, but it lasted quite a lot. Still, the thought of ending Umineko, I don't know. Then again, as I said, there's gonna be like content even after this. And I guess to satiate my Umineko emptiness after I end Umineko, there's gonna be like other stuff like Higurashi and like probably some other games that Kishi has done. So yeah, even after ending Umineko, there's still gonna be like stuff like going on afterwards when it comes to the When They Cry series. I I would like to believe. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching this, and I'll see you guys next time.